in a world of confusion and lies. Call me whatever name you want. I absolutely love what President Trump did with Nicolas Maduro. We're going to be talking about that. Obviously, he has captured Nicolas Maduro. I don't think this is going to start World War III. I know there's a lot of people out there. This is not what we bargained for. This is not what we voted for. I'm not one of those people. Again, that's why I'm saying you can call me whatever name you want. I absolutely love this. I believe in the long run, this will save taxpayers money. I've seen some conservatives online. Hey, this isn't what we bargained for. How is it that we're not taking care of the American people? I believe we're taking care of the American people. All you have to do is sit back and look at the amount of people that have died in the United States from drug overdoses that have been imported through partly through Venezuela, through Nicolas Maduro, particularly in the last several years. The numbers are absolutely insane. So if you're worried about tax dollars, I don't know. How about all of the taxpayers that are dead as a result of the drugs that have been sent into this country? And I do think that that's a war on America. Obviously, you have China working in the region. You have Hezbollah that is working in the region with Nicolas Maduro that have their own little island right off the coast, I believe, of Venezuela. I mean, it's insane. This is insane. So I'm sorry, when you have a bunch of hundreds of thousands of taxpayers, American taxpayers, that are literally being murdered, I don't think it's intentional. Of course, these people want power. Of course, these drug lords do. But when you have Nicolas Maduro literally sending out these unmarked ships with oil, getting around the Western Hemisphere, enriching our enemies, and I do believe that that's America first. And I do think this is more than a foreign policy issue. I do believe that this is a domestic policy issue. I can guarantee you all of the moms and dads that have lost their children from drug overdoses. And listen, I'm not blaming all of those drug overdoses on Maduro per se, but there's no doubt that those countries, that those dictators and China wanted to flood the zone with these drugs for the sake of power, but also, I believe, for the sake of waging war on the United States of America. So I want more taxpayers alive. All right. So I think that helps, frankly. I know that's not an argument that you're going to hear a lot, but that's why you listen to the Carl Jackson show. Also, please subscribe to my show. All right. We're live now. We're on Apple, we're on Google, we're on Spotify, YouTube, Rumble, or actually, that's where you can go to get the podcast if you want to listen to a later time. But check us out live. Obviously, we're on YouTube. If you're watching us live now, we're on X. We want to grow our audience there. So if you can help us out, share this podcast. We would certainly appreciate that. Also, I look at it in this way: there's going to be a lot of Venezuelans if eventually, and I do believe that it'll happen. Venezuela is made into a country again where people can live peacefully. I mean, that was a very wealthy nation at one point in time until these dictators took over. You had Hugo Chavez that had American oil companies come in and restructure the framing and pipelines and all this kind of stuff for oil to get oil out and to be able to ship oil, and then murdered some of the people. I mean, just absolutely insane. So this is what Trump is talking about when he said they stole oil from us. They absolutely did. And they never paid the American companies for what they did. They kicked them out of the country. So this is insane. This is a fight that goes back a long ways, but we're going to be talking about this more because I think the Operation Absolute Resolve that they pulled out was the absolute bomb, and I want to get into some of the details of that. And obviously, there's arguments. Is this legal? Is this illegal? I mean, are we in a war? No, we're not in a war. That's why Nicolas Maduro is in New York City. Oh, this is illegal, guys. Let's just use a bit of common sense. Let's try that. All right, this is a show with an ungodly amount of common sense, by the way. All right, so so let's just use some common sense. If this was illegal, Nicolas Maduro wouldn't be in handcuffs in a jail, wouldn't have hired a lawyer. He's already got a very high profile attorney. If this is illegal, he'll go through the court process. He'll be in and out. But we all know that because he's going through the court process, this is not illegal. This is not a war. This is what the Trump administration is arguing. This is not a war. And with the War Powers Act, I believe you have 48 hours to be able to inform Congress. So you have a lot of Democrats going crazy for nothing. But again, this is not a war, so there wasn't a need for a War Powers Act. there wasn't a need for the War Powers Act. But if there were, then I believe it's Trump has 60 days if there's some type of military excursion, not a war, not a declared war, but a military excursion where the executive power is in charge of that under Article 2, Section 2. So if there's a military excursion of some part, of some consequence, then Trump has the power to be able to do that from the executive branch. And other presidents have done that. I'll read an article from you a little later from Greg Jarrett of Fox News, a brilliant attorney that you see oftentimes on obviously on Fox, one of their analysts, and we'll get into that momentarily. But I want to go through the gamut. I want to go through. You've got Mamdani, and I struggle with this. I got to be completely honest with you guys. I struggle with bringing up Mamdani a lot because I don't want to put his name and keep his name in the forefront. But also, he's part of the news, so it's like, yeah, what can you do? You got to talk about the news. I just don't want to prop this guy up, except to talk about his failures. And I gotta be honest with you. A couple of days, I was sitting here worried, and I was thinking to myself what Rush Limbaugh said, and I believe I mentioned this on air. I hope he fails. I hope he fails. And then I got a little nervous because I started thinking, what if this guy does do a better job than I expect? He's calling himself a communist or a democratic socialist. There's no such thing. He's a communist. All right. He wants to take over the means of production. Now they want to gaffle property. They want to take away private property. We'll get into that. The individual isn't important. We'll get into that. I mean, this is all scary stuff. But I'm tying all of these stories in together because this is exactly what Mamdani is spewing. I don't even know that he understands the full blown consequences of his stupid thinking. But the fact of the matter is, what his thinking looks like when it's brought into full fruition is Venezuela. It's what a lot of Venezuelans, both here in Florida and some other places across the country, they're sitting out there celebrating the fact that Nicolas Maduro is no longer in charge. Now, it is going to be a process because we do want to make sure that somebody else in there, obviously a Venezuelan, is running things. They've got a great team in place. They're going to work with the United States instead of our enemies that want to literally attack us and destroy us in our own hemisphere. That's absolutely it's just insane. But if Mamdani were everything he wanted to bring to fruition were to come to pass, then you would have a Venezuela. This is what literally 8 million, nearly 10 million people escaping under Maduro. I believe it's Maduro. Maybe it's Maduro and Chavez, but I believe it was under Maduro, escaping the strong arm of Nicolas Maduro. And that's what Mamdani wants to bring to New York. People just don't realize it. A bunch of you get a bunch of white liberals out there. I saw some Venezuelans that were like, "You guys don't know what the heck you're talking about." People that actually experience real oppression, real socialism, real communism, real Marxism under the strong arm of Nicolas Maduro, and they're sitting out there debating in the streets with a bunch of liberal morons that have no clue what it's like to live under a real dictator. They would not be if Trump was a real dictator. Guys, I want you to just use your common sense. If Trump was a dictator, they wouldn't be out in the streets protesting like that. You know what happened to people in Venezuela? You know what happens to people in China under real dictators? When they go out in the streets and protest, they get shot. Look at Iran. Thank God the Iran protesters seemingly have had enough to the point where the Ayatollah Khomeini is literally thinking of an escape plan, considering an escape plan to Moscow, believe it or not, if things don't calm down. So I hope they catch him. I hope they beat his old behind. I do. So I'm sorry. Some people deserve to die. He's one of them. But what we're experiencing in the United States, it is an oppression. Trump isn't a dictator. He isn't a tyrant. The reason why we know that is because people can keep saying it without consequence. You still, and also we've got the not the Mamdan. We've got the Minnesota scandal that continues to blossom. Governor Tim Walz says he's out. He's not running for reelection, and that's the least of his worries. I think before it's over, he may have to resign if they find out that he's been getting in a lot of campaign funding from some of these, allowing turning a blind eye to a lot of these welfare schemes that were overwhelmingly are perpetuated within the Somali community. If he was getting a lot of money from that, meanwhile saying he was investigating fraud, knowing there was fraud, he could be in some serious trouble. All right, so we're gonna take a look at that. Man, there's so much to get to. The news simply does not stop. Also, I was hoping. Oh, okay. I was hoping that John Lott would come on. Apparently, he's actually trying. Apparently, he's trying to get in now. So we'll try to take care of that during. He try to take care of that during the break because I would love to bring him on. He wrote a great column last week. We'll see if we can get to it about the horrific crimes that illegal immigrants commit, and they do commit crimes at a much higher level than the American citizen does. It's the complete and utter lie when you hear the Democrats or liberals say that illegal immigrants commit less crime than American citizens. That simply is not the case. That simply is not true. And so hopefully we can get John Lott on. We'll try to send him a link, see if he can join us momentarily. You're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. We will be back in a few. Oh man, this is crazy. He said I thought you guys were gonna call. I'm like, he says he doesn't see any email. Oh, all right. This is what's happening behind the scenes. Thank you. All right. Well, I appreciate you guys. Listen, I'm trying to work with the guests here. I need to get this to Tony, and so let me send this to Tony and see if he can get him on, and then we'll just have to see if we can get him. I don't know if we'll be able to get him on or not, given. So we'll have to see. Um, Gabe, is there any way you can ask Tony to send a link to him and try to contact him? See if we can get him on. And all right. Oh man. All right, guys. Listen, I appreciate you tuning in. I'm sorry. We are trying to work on a guest that we were supposed to have at the top of the program. I'm not sure if it's going to um, happen or not, but we'll see. Okay. Um, I'll just have to. All right. I'm ready when you are. I don't know what else to do. So, why did you send the link to me? Okay. Sorry. Okay. All right. Am I the only one crazy on that one, Gabe? Thanks. All right. You confirmed it. Okay. Yes. Sorry. All right. Welcome back to the show, guys. I apologize about that for those of you that may have been tuning in during the break. We were hoping to have John Lott on at the top of the hour. We had some communication issues, as you can see, and that happens sometimes. I don't. So anyway, hopefully we will get that resolved because I really would like to talk about. I'll go through his column and go through some of the data. I touched on it, but barely last week. But I think this is extremely important because I think it all ties in, but I do want to go through meanwhile while we determine whether or not we're going to be able to get John at this point in time because I know he had a previous engagement. And John Lott is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. You guys may know him from the book More Guns, Less Crime, as well as many other books, lots of columns, tons of research. Started off as an economist, statistician, but he started looking at gun crime, and I mean just does phenomenal work for the Second Amendment. And the left just totally turned against him once he started doing that. But I want to go through Operation Absolute Resolve and just give you some of the details, because I do think that it's amazing what they were able to accomplish with this. And I just took some notes because, believe it or not, NBC News had some of the better. It actually had some of the better takes. It's weird because these left wing organizations, if you, I wouldn't, I can't stomach listening to their or watching their news coverage. Even CBS, I know that Barry Weiss is transitioning CBS to make it something more respectable, and I pray to God that that works out and that comes to fruition. And I believe at some point it will. Maybe it'll be a more moderate, or at least a liberal or Democrat leaning news organization with with some real journalists there. Okay, so we got John on the in the lobby. I'm going to go ahead and bring John up, and I appreciate you guys being patient with me. I just think this is a really important conversation to have in lieu of what's going on, not frankly just with Maduro, but what we see happening in New York with Mamdani and all. Hey. John, a lot, man. I appreciate it. I am so sorry for the communication mix up, and I won't blame.
Okay, I don't have very long. I only have about 7 minutes or so to
Okay.
be on right now. But
Okay, so we're live, so we're just going to go through this as quickly as possible. I'm speaking to John R. Lott Jr. of the Crime Prevention Research Center. I think I did a video over the weekend, and I called it Crime Research Prevention Center. So anyway, we got that corrected. But John, I'm glad you were able to come on again. Forgive us for the mix up here, but
no
here's
problem.
here's the deal. You wrote a great column in the New York Post, frankly, as you're apt to do. New data reveals the horrific truth about illegal immigrant crime. And I think this is particularly important given what we're seeing. You have President Trump rolling back some federal funding in some particular states that aren't cooperating with ISO and et cetera. But there's this mantra out there, there's this narrative out there from the left that illegals commit far less crime or less likely to commit crime than American citizens. But that's not true, according to the data that you found,
Right,
particularly in the state of New York. Tell us about it.
right. There are a lot of problems that the advocates for open borders don't admit with the claims that they're making. I can go through that, but just to give you an idea, so there's some new data that came out for New York State, and ICE has put in detainers for 7,113 illegal aliens who are currently incarcerated in the state prison and jail system. That's an underestimate of the number of people there for multiple reasons. One reason is obviously New York is not assisting ICE in identifying whether illegals are incarcerated in the state. Um, you also have it so that uh, over the course of this year, ICE officials will go to courthouses when an illegal is being arraigned or charged or convicted, and essentially take them into custody at that point. And so they never get into the prison system. And so obviously they're going to be underrepresented compared to their share of the crime that's there. And there are
Wow.
other points that we could get into too. But that 7,113 is an underestimate. And if you compare it to the state prison population and jail population, there's slightly over 50,000 people incarcerated in New York State. 7,113 represents 14%. Now, if you compare it to the share of the general population in New York, which are illegals, the highest estimate is given by Pew, which is 4.1%. So basically, the 14% is almost 3.5 times higher than their share of the general population. So they're way overrepresented in the incarcerated population relative to the general population.
You know what?
These are, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, John. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
these are people who have been convicted of murder, child rape, robberies, aggravated assaults. These are many violent criminals, and it doesn't deal with the fact that over the course of this year, since January 20th, I mean last year, you had almost 7,000 illegal aliens were released from prisons and jails in the state, people who had been convicted. And so, uh, anyway, it's but they were not, ICE was not notified of their release, so they were just put back out into the general population.
This is so frustrating. And just to reiterate some of the things that John said, and then there's a trick that they do I want to talk to John about momentarily here, and we're running short on time with him. So I'll get to that as quickly as possible. But again, over 7,100 of currently incarcerated inmates in New York are illegal aliens, a population, and he's written about it at the New York Post. New data reveals the horrific truth about illegal immigrant crime. 50,800, just over 50,800 inmates in the New York state jail and prison population. And again, 7,113 of them are illegal aliens. That doesn't count the ones that you just heard them say it, that are captured, if you will, or that ICE arrest inside of, when they're preparing for court, so on, etc. So it is just a complete and utter lie to believe that a lot of people that are coming from countries that are not assimilating to this country, that are coming here illegally, are committing less crime. Mamdani is a big fan of so-called migrants, but a lot of illegals are, I mean, just given these percentages, particularly in New York, commit crime at a much higher rate. This frustrates me, John, that I don't hear Republicans talking about this. This is what drives me crazy. I think more than anything, I'm always impressed by your work, John, but I'm always frustrated because I'm like, why are Republicans not messaging this stuff and singing it from the mountaintops? One of the things that's so clever that they do, and I didn't realize this, they mix legal immigrant crime stats with illegal immigrant crime stats because legal immigrants do commit less crime as a
Right.
percentage.
Yeah, that's one of the many things that goes on there. So there's basically a couple different types of data that's there. Most of the comparisons lump legal and illegals together. And when you have a group that commits crime at low rates, the legal immigrants, and you mix them with the illegals, which commit high, you obviously hide the impact of the illegals. Now, there are two other things there's one other basic problem, and that is they have data from Texas. The amazing thing is how few states actually collect this data. But the problem with Texas is a state that works very closely with ICE in order to let them know that when somebody's been arrested or convicted or charged. So they're immediately turned over to ICE at that point. They don't get into the prison system. And so when people at Cato or whatever go and look at the percentage of the prison population that are illegals there, they've really, they've missed out on this big iceberg there of people who got turned over to ICE early on and never made it into the prison population. And they don't admit that. They don't explain to people the problems that are there with the data that they're using.
Ugh. Yeah, it's so frustrating, and I mean, and for all of you naysayers out there, people, oh well, Republicans are just racist and they don't like brown. Or first off, I guess I would qualify as one. Don't like brown people. Don't like minor. It has nothing to do with that. When people
Well,
come to the
if we didn't like it, then we'd be making the claim that it's all immigrants or something like
fair,
that. But the point
yeah,
is that there's a huge difference between legal and illegal. I apologize, but I have to run. But anyway, I
no,
apologize for. Okay, thank you very much, Carl. It's great talking to you. Thank you.
okay, John, we're gonna. Oh, okay. All right. So anyway, that was John Lott joining us from the Crime Prevention Research Center. And I'm glad you guys caught that live. Hopefully, he had to go so quickly. I hope we're able to get that up in a recording. But anyway, but this stuff matters because you want people like Mamdani that's in love with, and they call them migrants. But I'm sorry, people have to assimilate when they come to the United States of America. there's a big problem. You get a lot of criminals that flood in with a lot of people that may have good intentions that want to come to the best country that has ever been built by man. But the bottom line is they have to assimilate because there's a bunch of people, a bunch of bad actors that want to get in with the good people and cause a lot of havoc in the United States of America, and they don't want to assimilate, and they're making America a less safe place. All right, we'll be back momentarily. I'm glad John was able to pop on. You tell me, Gabe. Um, all right, so you guys are listening to the Carl Jackson Show. We're trying to do this thing live regularly, so I'm glad you can tune in. Please follow us all things social media. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook. You're going to be seeing more of us here live. You're going to be seeing me writing soon here. I'm trying to get out of my writer's block. I used to write a lot of columns for Town Hall, WorldNet Daily back in the day, and just honestly, life just got a little overwhelming to the point where I backed out. But I need to do that again. I want to do that again. I want to make sure that Trump has a full presidency. Obviously, right now you see some Republicans jumping ship because they believe he's the lame duck. Okay, and I want to make sure. Thank God, thank you, Gabe. And I want to make sure that he has his full 4 years, and I hope you do too. So hopefully we can win in the Senate and the House here. I'm going to take a swig. We'll come back to regular programming. I'm going to show you some videos as well. So you guys stay tuned for that. I want to go through what happened with Nicolas Maduro because this operation, what was it called again? Operation Absolute Resolve was nothing short of just a magnificent undertaking, a brilliant undertaking. And we're going to talk about that. It was just pretty cool what went down. All right. So we'll be back momentarily here. Yeah. And I thought they flew back there momentarily, but okay. Yeah. All right. All right. We leave it to Gabe. All right. Okay. All right. So we can we'll get back to it. Yes, sir. All right, guys. I appreciate you joining us. And again, thank you for being patient with us. John Lott had to come in and out. We had some communication issues. He was supposed to be on earlier. We screwed up on our end. Anyway, it's always a privilege to have him on. But we talked about this a little bit last week, and I just think that all of this plays a role. I don't believe that a lot of these stories exist in a vacuum. I believe they're cohesive. I mean, you can look at the crime stats with illegal immigrants. Look at Maduro sending Trende Aragua inside of the United States to conduct some of his dirty business. And unfortunately, the Biden administration with open borders, and you had you had bad actors just flooding our country, along with people who, again, probably had good intentions, wanted to come here and be a part of America, but you have to come here legally. It's as simple as that. And frankly, even the people that came here under the Biden administration, when they knew what Biden was doing, I don't have much sympathy for them. Frankly, actually, no sympathy because I don't believe that they wanted to assimilate. When you're coming into the country in that way, I don't believe that you necessarily want to assimilate. And I think it's got to be a do over. Perhaps you go home, you go back like the Department of Homeland Security is saying voluntarily, then you get an opportunity to come back and do it the right way, and you don't have to risk your life going through a desert. Let me get to this Operation Absolute Resolve because I just think it's absolutely amazing what they were able to pull off. And I know there's a lot of people out there. Oh, Carl, some people message me online. Oh, Carl, I didn't think you would be for this. Are you really for this? So yeah, I am. For the reasons that I stated before, and for all of you that are saying, "Listen, we don't want to waste our taxpayer dollars on honestly, I think it'll be a wash. I think it'll be in the long run. I think this will be better for us. If you make Venezuela great again, what's going to happen? You're going to have a beautiful place to vacation, and then you're also going to have Venezuelans that want to go back to their own homeland and to make it great again like it once was. It is rich with resources. And we just want to make sure that Americans in the United States are safe and that they're our trading partners again, where people that don't want to take us down, like China, Russia, Iran, don't have a doesn't have an impact in our hemisphere. This is just the Monroe Doctrine. Now Donald Trump is calling it the Dunroe Doctrine, played all over again. But you're going to save money on taxes. Again, you're going to have Venezuelans that instead of coming to the United States, they're going to want to stay they're going to want to stay in Venezuela. Also, you're not going to have dead taxpayers because of the drugs that are being transported from Venezuela to American soil, where so many Americans are dying. I mean, this is just I think people, whether you're there's people that suffer from Trump derangement syndrome, and then there's also people on the right that says, well, this isn't America first. This is no, that's not what you perceive to be America first. But I'm sorry, I do. If we're taking care of the homeland, I don't mind. Listen, I don't want to get into some long protracted war in the Middle East. Frankly, I want Israel to handle most of the business in the Middle East. So I have no problem. I love the state of Israel beyond just being a Christian. I just think it's strategic and it's smart. That is our best democratic ally in the Middle East, and frankly, one of our best allies. Period. And if they're willing to handle the demonic Islamist out there in their territory, hey, let's sell them all the weapons they need to stay safe and to help us stay safe. I'm totally down with that. I believe that's in America's best interest. I also believe that securing our Western hemisphere is in America's best interest. I mean, these people have been waging war on us, and because they don't play it on the evening news, or because you don't see it on TikTok or Instagram or X, we want to pretend like it's not happening. But I'm sorry, you've got hundreds of thousands, literally, of families across the nation that have been losing their children year after year with these open borders and drugs flowing into this country, and nobody's talking about it. These people have waged war on us. We don't want to go. You're in a war. Whether you like it or not, you're in a war. That's just reality. So I appreciate Operation Absolute Resolve. So Trump gave Maduro one last chance to step down. Apparently, this was about a week in a private phone call right before the capture went down. Obviously, we all knew about the Armada. You have U.S. warships that were floating right off the coast of Venezuela. You had a CIA team that apparently slipped into the country, and they tracked. Listen to this: how Maduro slept. I mean, think of the skill. They how he they knew how he slept. The CIA. This guy lived on a military base in Venezuela in a compound with basically a steel safety room, and the CIA. That's kind of creepy when you think about it. They knew how he slept. They knew what he ate, what he liked, how he traveled around. Even they even knew about his pets, who his pets were, what they were called. I mean, that's insane. And apparently, this began as early as August. They were on the ground in there. I mean, so this wasn't something that happened overnight. Here's a quote from Trump. He told him, "You got to surrender." Apparently, that's what he told him on the call. But Maduro took the gamble of his life, he said, and he quote came close quote to giving in, but he stayed put. I guarantee you, Maduro now, and he's obviously he pled. He and Celia Flores pled not guilty today to all of these charges against them. He says he's still the president of Venezuela. No, you're not. But anyway, so it's going to be a very interesting trial to watch. Trump gave the final order to lunch Friday at 10:46 p.m. So that was last week Friday. He gave the order to lunch. You had elite troops that were trained for months using a replica of the compound. I mean, that's insane. Honestly, when I think of our intelligence, I'm in awe, and I'm also like, I hope they never come after me. I definitely don't want a deep state, right? You definitely don't want a deep state. So I hope that one of the things that Trump is able to do is literally cut down the size and scope of these institutions before he leaves. Thank God the FBI building is not going to be made. The new one is not going to be built rather in Washington D.C. They're going to use the facility that they have already in, I believe it's in Huntsville, Alabama. A lot of these agents are going to be focused on their local area, state, so on, et cetera. But so I believe that's a good thing. But I believe there's a long ways to go to cut out the deep state. So hearing this story, I mean, I'm in awe, but at the same token, this is why you don't want a deep state. The capabilities that these people have are absolutely insane. Again, they used a replica of Maduro's compound. They had massive blow torches because they knew that he had a safe room, apparently a big steel safe room to cut through, so they could cut through that. So knowing that information, being prepared for that, I mean, it's just insane. You had core Trump administration officials that were worked on the project. Everyone from John Ratcliffe, head of the CIA, obviously, Secretary of Defense or War, Pete Hegseth, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's been out on the Sunday shows. We'll play some clips for you guys. I mean, it was just a phenomenal operation. To date, Trump's administration has blown up 35 drug boats. That started back, I believe that was in September when that all started. So thank God for that. And then, according to Susie Wiles, the goal of sinking those drug boats was to make Maduro cry uncle. And again, apparently he came close, but no cigar. I can guarantee you tonight he's regretting that decision. If he's not regretting it tonight, he will be within the next couple of days or so. Once the reality sets in that he's not going anywhere, and then you have all these Democrats out there. Oh, Democrats out there, they think Trump did the wrong thing, even though they thought Trump wasn't doing enough in 2020 to take down Maduro. I mean, just absolute complete political hacks. It goes beyond being hypocrites. They're just political hacks. Anything that Trump does right, they can't give Trump the credit for this. They know this is a good thing. They know this is a good thing. And again, I understand there's people out there, Carl, this isn't what I voted for. Yeah, you voted for a safer America. It is. You may not see it on the macro level, but this is a safer America without having to put troops on the ground, at least not for more than, what a couple hours or so. I mean, just absolutely fascinating what happened here. Again, 35 drug boats have been sank. 114 people, alleged drug smugglers, have been killed, and they wanted to make Maduro cry uncle. He never did that. I guarantee you he regrets it. You had America's most advanced carrier. This is all according to NBC News. They had a really good write up on this, frankly. America's most advanced carrier, the USS Gerald Ford, was strategically placed to start that military buildup, as some of you guys might recall, while working on the capture of Maduro. Trump. In the meanwhile, this is what's cool too, because you didn't know what's going on. Remember, just a couple of weeks or so ago, he ordered strikes in Nigeria against ISIS. Oh, see, Carl, he's ADHD, he's scattered brain, he's all that. No, remember, he's got this Middle East peace deal working out in, obviously, in the Middle East. You've got Iran that is still trying to build a bomb or restore bomb capabilities out there. And so you had Netanyahu come into the White House talking about that. But also, this was part of the strategy to make sure that ISIS doesn't go wild, like they did under Barack Obama, like they did again under Biden. This is to make sure that ISIS doesn't go wild in Africa, in the Middle East. And so that's what's happening there, obviously protecting Christians as well, which I absolutely love. All right, so more of this on the other side. You are listening to the Carl Jackson Show. We'll be back momentarily. Hey guys, I appreciate you tuning in to the live show. For anyone that may be out there, if you are out there, please tell your friends about it. If you see this later, make sure you check us out. We're going to be broadcasting live, although we got a bit of a late start and we had some technical difficulties and we had an issue with a guest. So we started a little later than we wanted to, but we are going to be on live Monday and Thursday, 7 to 9 p.m. So tell your mother, tell your father, tell your mammy, your pappy, uh, if you call them that, your uncle, your auntie, your little cousin, everybody. Tell everybody the Carl Jackson Show live, 7 to 9 p.m., Monday through Thursday. So I just wanted to make sure I needed to be in contact with the people. I miss being on radio live. And so this is what we decided to do beyond just podcasting. You can always go back and listen at a later date. And please subscribe to our podcast. It is the Carl Jackson Show. wherever you go to get your podcast. We're on Apple, we're on Google, Spotify, YouTube, and Rumble. Also, now you can watch it on X. We're live on X. So please tune in on X as well. We would certainly appreciate that, por favor. So anyway, and then all things social media at Carl Jackson Show or at the Carl Jackson Show, X, Instagram, and Facebook. All right, let's get right back to it. Por favor, Gabe. Again, you're listening to the Carl Jackson Show coming to you live. For some reason, I can't hear you. Okay, there we go. Uh, I can if I can find it. Unfortunately, I don't think I have it on me right now. Otherwise, I would. Okay, sorry. I should have had that. You're right. I will next time. Okay. Yes, sir. Okay, welcome back to the program. Again, you're listening to the Carl Jackson Show. We're going over the details of Operation Absolute Resolve. We do have some video that I'm going to be showing you because we're tying a lot of stories together. How illegal alien crime is worse. I hope you were able to tune in. If not, make sure you subscribe to the podcast where you can check out John R. Lott or John R. Lott Jr. From the Crime Prevention Research Center. Just a fantastic guy. Absolutely just amazing when it comes to stats, proving, particularly or especially in the state of New York, illegal immigrants commit way more crime than their population. Three and a half times they commit three and a half times the crime as their population represents. It's absolutely insane. I think they represent 3.5% of the population or so in the state of New York, and they commit at least 14% of the crime. And honestly, the numbers can be more. The numbers could be more, given the fact that ICE goes into courtrooms sometimes arresting these people and not inside of the jail cell. So they're not always taken to the jail or prison system. So just something you should know. But getting back to this Operation Absolute Resolve, again, I'm just in awe of what took place. I have the utmost respect for our military personnel that are willing to risk their life and take on stuff like this. Um, and go and I mean our elite forces that can go in and do stuff like this to go into a military compound where people, sadly Americans, were injured, but nobody killed. And I pray to God those injuries aren't serious, because you're always concerned when you hear of a military injury. You hope it's not to a point where there has to be an amputation or something to that degree. But I do know they took out 32, at least 32 of the security forces, Cuban security forces, as a matter of fact, that were guarding Nicolas Maduro. So our guys went in, they did their thing, they captured Nicolas Maduro. Apparently, it was so swift, he was caught off guard. He couldn't even make it to the safe room in time. So that's just amazing, amazing work. Um, while working on the capture of Maduro, I'm just going through my notes. Trump had ordered wind and cloud. Trump ordered, man. Oh, I talked about that. I'm sorry. I'm getting confused with my notes on Nigeria, but also wind and cloud cover in Caracas had delayed the attack for days. Apparently, they wanted to attack or capture Nicolas Maduro. I believe it was 4 days prior. The weather didn't permit it. The weather was beautiful on Friday. That allowed them to go in with no problems. You had JD Vance. This was clever. And I know you guys heard the news about him. Pray for, obviously, the safety of all of our leaders, even if they're on the left. They're a bunch of crazies on the left, but still, you don't want any harm to come to those people. You don't want any harm to come to our leaders, frankly, anybody, but any of our leaders. Pray for their safety. But you had some nut that either, I don't know if it was shot or busted in the windows. I haven't even read the story. I'm being honest with you. Sadly, I almost expect stuff like this. So I'll read that later. And if you, I'm sure you guys already have, quite frankly, uh, but nonetheless, just pray for the safety of JD Vance and his family, his home in Cincinnati. It wasn't broken into, but apparently either, I don't know if it was gunshots, I don't know if it was rocks, but busted out some windows, put some pretty big holes. I did see the pictures. So pretty insane. But JD Vance had met with President Trump Friday afternoon. And this was clever. Basically, they met Friday afternoon. Obviously, Trump gave the orders after 10 p.m., close to 11 p.m. That night, launched the attack on Maduro's compound or what have you, or gave the go ahead. But J.D. Vance wanted to make sure, and President Trump did, that there wasn't his detail, going to the White House at night where the media would be tracking what he was doing. Well, why is VP Vance going to the White House at night? Blah blah blah. Tip off Maduro. So they played it safe. He went during the day. They discussed things then, and things happen at night. And the quote that President Trump gave to the warriors was pretty cool. He told them good luck and Godspeed. That was Trump's word to a lot of those military guys that were out there fighting for our freedom. And I just thought that was pretty cool to hear that. You had 150 aircraft that participated from 20 U.S. bases, including a fleet of bombers. You had fighters, apparently some type of craft, and perhaps drones that specialized in intelligence. You had reconnaissance and surveillance. The crews ranged in age from 20 to 49. The U.S. apparently cut the electricity in Caracas with helicopters carrying special forces and law enforcement because although they worked in tandem, this was a law enforcement operation. And you had other aircraft that disabled Venezuela's air defenses as well. I mean, so these people knew exactly what they were doing. Let me give you some more details. Um, from the article itself from NBC. It says here flames were seen billowing from explosion at Fort Tiuna. I don't even know how to pronounce this. Tiuna, a large military complex in Caracas. By 1 a.m. Saturday, U.S. soldiers had reached the compound in Caracas where Maduro was staying. Quote, a heavily fortified military fortress, close quote. That's according to Trump. And then you had Delta Force breach Maduro's residence. He and his wife were taken, quote, completely by surprise, close quote. This is according to General Raising Cane. Basically, they were taken by complete surprise. Maduro tried to escape into what Trump described as a still safe room, but didn't make it in time. The forces took Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, into custody. And we all saw the pictures. We all saw the video of them arrested and being perp walked, basically. A firefight broke out after Maduro was captured. According to Kane, and a U.S. helicopter was hit. No Americans were killed, though there were several injuries to U.S. troops. So, again, pray for those troops, all of whom are stable. So that's good news. All right. So all of them are stable. By 3:30 a.m. Eastern time Saturday morning, the U.S. forces were safely out of the country. At that time, the air in Caracas basically was smelled like gunpowder, according to Kane. And the U.S. Embassy in Venezuela had cautioned American citizens there to shelter in place. Less than an hour later, President Trump broke the news. And here's what he said. The United States of America has successfully carried out a large-scale strike against Venezuela and its leader, President Nicolas Maduro, who has been, along with his wife, captured and flown out of the country. I mean, this is just phenomenal work. I just don't, I'm just so impressed by it. And again, I know there's naysayers, Carl, this isn't what we bargained for. Yeah, it is. I do think this helps with the economy. I do think that eventually this adds stabilization to the region and to oil prices. I think this keeps more Americans safe. I think this ensures that more American taxpayers get to stay alive and pay taxes. Quite frankly, when you don't have Venezuela and China and Russia and Iran all participating in the death of American citizens via drugs, because that's exactly what they wanted to do. I do want to play a video for you because there are some people that are bothered, that lefties are bothered. Let's go to cut number 7. This is a Venezuelan journalist, Germania. How long do we have enough time? Okay, let's play cut number 7. Venezuela journalist giving the haters a piece of his mind.
Now a message to my English-speaking friends, because I'm already seeing people are organizing protests, hands off Venezuela, let's defend Maduro, we love dictators. Do not, for a moment, let your hatred and disdain for Donald Trump, an unsavory character, have you defending the dictator of my country that was destroyed by him and Chavez and their system 20 years ago. We Venezuelans are very, very happy that our dictator has been arrested, removed, and will be put through a trial. It's the first time we're seeing justice in 26 years. Now let's hope that they get the rest of the criminals out of Venezuela, and then we can return home.
All right, so and listen to her, and then we can return home. Obviously, she sounds like somebody that would be cool to have stand here in the United States, but if she prefers to go to Venezuela, that's what a lot of Venezuelans are saying. Listen, I would honestly go back if it was the Venezuela that it used to be. But I love what she said too. This isn't somebody that sounds like they support Trump. I mean, she called him an unsavory character, and which obviously means, hey, I don't necessarily like his character, but you got to give the guy props for what he did. Don't get things conflated. You can still for those of you that suffer with TDS out there, you can hate Trump and still love what he did. You can admit that, okay, this one thing he did was good. This was a good thing that he did, and people know that. We'll have some more video clips to play after the break, because I just think this is just such a huge story, and it it made Mamdani seem small. But we'll get to the Mamdani story. We'll get to the Minnesota story. Tim Walz is not going to be running for reelection, and I think Tim Walz is in a lot of trouble. And I think he knows it. At the very least, he's going to be going through an investigation, I suspect, and that's going to take a lot out of you, especially when you're the governor of a state trying to run the state. I would not be surprised at all if Tim Walz resigns as governor of Minnesota, because frankly, I don't think running for reelection is enough. I think the guy knew what was going on, decidedly turned a blind eye because it was benefiting the Democrat Party inside of Minnesota, and I think we're going to find evidence of that. Just my opinion. We'll see. Okay. Okay. Let's come back in with cut number 8. Hello, for all of you that are listening or watching live. Really appreciate you being out there. Please subscribe to our podcast wherever you go to get your podcast, The Carl Jackson Show. We're on all things social media at Carl Jackson Show, at The Carl Jackson Show. Certainly appreciate you being out there. Gabe, we can go right back in it. Let's go to cut number 8. Can we start out with that? All right, let's do that, por favor.
Number one, most of the experts that people have on television, I watch these experts and it's clown hour. Okay, these are people that have focused their entire career on the Middle East or some other part of the world because that's where all the action was. Very few of them know anything about Venezuela or the Western Hemisphere. Venezuela looks nothing like Libya. It looks nothing like Iraq. It looks nothing like Afghanistan. It looks nothing like the Middle East other than the Iranian agents that are running through there plotting against America. Okay? These are Western countries with long traditions among their at a people-to-people and cultural level and ties to the United States. So there's nothing like that. So I think people need to stop ascribing the apples and oranges here, the apples of the Middle East to the oranges of the Western Hemisphere.
But do you...
Number two, this is about the national interest of the United States. And what I'm confident of is we are in a safer and better place because we're taking it seriously. The alternative would have been to leave Maduro there as an indicted drug trafficker, illegitimate president, running the country, open invitation for all of our adversaries to do whatever they want against the United States from Venezuela. That was not going to continue. The alternative would have been to allow a drug trafficker to continue to use national territory and elements of nation-state power to further drug trafficking organizations. Read the indictment. This guy used the levers of their security apparatus not to arrest drug traffickers, but to cooperate and facilitate the trafficking of drugs for the purpose of getting them into the United States. And that's going to stop.
All right, and that's Secretary of State Marco Rubio. I want to play another clip by him, cut number 2, if you would, Gabe. More of Secretary of State Marco Rubio telling us what he thinks about the UN And frankly, he thinks what all Americans should think about the UN. I can't stand the fact that the UN is in New York. We need to ship it somewhere else and stop footing most of the bill for it. But this is cut number two, more of Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who went on and basically represented the Trump administration on all of these Sunday shows. Cut number two.
No, you're wrong in your question. Number one, Venezuela is a major source. And the reason why is the following. And I've seen a lot of this reporting, and it's fake reporting, and I'll tell you why. It says that somehow Venezuela is not involved in the drug trade because the UN says they're not involved in the drug. I don't care what the UN says. The UN doesn't know what they're talking about. Maduro is indicted by a grand jury in the Southern District of New York. That means the Southern District of New York presented the evidence to a grand jury, and a grand jury indicted him. And then a superseding indictment came out that was unsealed about a year and a half ago that specifically detailed Maduro's actions. So number one, let there be no doubt, Nicolas Maduro is an indicted drug trafficker in the United States, and he's a fugitive of American justice.
Okay, I want to play you a couple of flashbacks too of Democrats, what they had to say, and then I'll close this out shortly because a few more details that I'd like to give you from this operation. Oh Lord, I forget the name. From this fabulous operation, Absolute Resolve, which is what it was. But if we could go to Senator Chris Murphy, this guy's a clown in my opinion. But Senator Chris Murphy, we'll give you the two renditions. Senator Chris Murphy in 2026, hating on Trump as when it comes to Maduro and what he's done in Venezuela, compared to what Senator Chris Murphy was saying in 2019, just proving that these guys are complete and utter political hacks. All right, so cut number 9, please, Gabe.
Venezuela is not a security threat to the United States. They're not threatening to invade us. There is no terrorist group like Al-Qaeda operating there that has plans to attack the United States. To the extent that you care about the drug trade, yes, they produce drugs, but those drugs go to Europe. Fentanyl is the drug that's killing Americans. That's not coming from Venezuela. Venezuela produces cocaine. 90% of it is not coming to the United States. This seems to be mostly about oil and natural resources. Donald Trump's entire foreign policy is corrupt. Russia, the Middle East, and now Venezuela is all about making money for his friends. And Wall Street, the oil industry, they can make a lot of money off of Venezuela if they run it. You saw within hours of the invasion, the announcement of a group of Wall Street investors, energy industry investors, planning a trip to Venezuela to make money off of this invasion, off of this ouster. So unfortunately, once again, you're seeing that this president's foreign policy, the invasion of Venezuela, the ouster of Maduro, is about making his crowd filthy rich. It has nothing to do with American national security.
Can I just go?
All right, so that's Chris Murphy there. Let me go to cut number 20, if you could. This is Chuck Schumer in 2020. Criticizing Trump for not bringing an end to the Maduro regime. So the Democrats can't make up their mind. Wherever Trump is, they have to be on the opposite end of Trump's opinion, the opposite end of Trump's policy. This is the Democrat Party. That's what they live to do, which tells you there's nothing that they want to get done. They're not interested in solving anything. They're not interested in getting helping out the American people, in my opinion. It's just make Trump look bad so they get back in power. Here's what we know about the Democrat Party. They are absolutely horrible when it comes to governing. I mean, all you have to do is go back. If you can remember, it's weird because time just flies so quickly. We all have a short memory when it comes to politics inside of the United States. But just remember how miserable your life was during the COVID lockdowns that literally the Biden administration did everything they could to make your lives miserable, to act like little wannabe tyrants. I mean, our local mayors here and some of our local mayors, before DeSantis really started cracking down on them inside of Florida, it was just insane. Some of the things that they were trying to do, even disobeying orders from the state capitol until DeSantis really started cracking down on them. Our own Orange County mayor, Demings, that is literally running for the governorship now, which is crazy. I pray to God he doesn't win. But all you have to do is go back and remember what the Democrats love power, but they don't have any real solutions. I look at my own county in which I live, and where all these beautiful buildings have been built, but the homeless encampments and homelessness is just as pervasive. during the COVID lockdown era, where a lot of these Democrats were so strict on businesses. A lot of these businesses went out of business because we literally had a mayor going around with some church leaders, that were, if businesses were breaking curfew or doing things they shouldn't during COVID, literally fining them. I mean, it was insane. It was insane. And finally, DeSantis had to crack down on that. But that's what Democrats are all about. Do we have enough time to play cut number 13? We have more of Secretary of State. Oh, let's play 20. Let's play 20. Okay. We'll play 20 and then we'll play more of Marco Rubio, just because I love how he did a great job over the weekend smacking down some of these liberals that pretend to be journalists on these networks. Cut number 12. Actually, I think it is, Gabe. Cut number 12.
He brags about all these things he wants to do or is doing, but his actions belie his words. Maybe the best metaphor was his claim to bring democracy to Venezuela. There was a big policy there. It flopped. If the policy was working, Juan Guaido wouldn't be in the balcony here. He'd be in Venezuela. He'd be sitting in the president's palace, or at least waging a fight to win. He's here. And the president brags about his Venezuela policy? Give us a break. He hasn't brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began.
All right, so a lot of clips that I'm playing for you, Gabe, actually, this particular segment, but I want you to see them. I think they're pretty important. So that's where Chuck Schumer was in 2020, right? He wanted Trump to take Maduro down, or so he said. Or so he said. But now that Trump has done it, not so much. Now he thinks Trump has done a bad job. This is a video that went viral over the weekend. This is Secretary of State again, Marco Rubio. He basically making Margaret Brennan look like a fool after she demands answers over why the U.S. didn't arrest Nicolas Maduro's henchmen. If we could go to cut number 13. But this lady looks more and more just so unqualified to be a real journalist, incapable. I mean, these are leftists trying to pretend like they're journalists. I wish they would just say, hey, listen, you guys know that I disagree with all of your policies when they come on. Instead, people like Margaret Brennan try to play, whatever, play like she's legit. But cut number 13, if we have enough time, Gabe.
I'm confused. Are they still wanted by the United States? Why didn't you arrest them if you are taking out the narco-terrorist regime?
You're confused? I don't know why that's confusing to you.
They're still in power.
It's very simple. You're not going to go in and wrap up. But you can't go. You're going to go in and suck up 5 people. They're already complaining about this one operation. Imagine the howls we would have from everybody else if we actually had to go and stay there 4 days to capture 4 other people. We got the top priority. The number one person on the list was the guy who claimed to be the president of the country that he was not. And he was arrested along with his wife, who was also indicted. And that was a pretty sophisticated and frankly complicated operation.
It was.
It is not easy to land helicopters in the middle of the largest military base in the country. The guy lived on a military base. Land within 3 minutes, kick down his door, grab him, put him in handcuffs, read him his rights, put him in a helicopter, and leave the country without losing any American or any American assets. That's not an easy mission. And you're asking me, why didn't we do that in 5 other places at the same time? I mean, that's absurd. I do think this is one of the most, daring, complicated, sophisticated missions this country has carried out in a very long time. Tremendous credit to the U.S. military personnel who did it. It was unbelievable, and tremendous success. And today, an indicted drug trafficker who was not the legitimate president of Venezuela, who we don't recognize, the Biden administration didn't recognize.
I just love how he puts it to her. That's absurd. I mean, you guys are hemming and hawing over the one guy, the main guy, right? That's where that's where the dominoes fall. They start with him. They take care of Maduro, and then the rest of his henchmen are like, we need to comply because we don't want to end up like him. We'll be back. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe. Please subscribe. The Carl Jackson Show. Also follow us on all things social media, X, Instagram, and Facebook. Por favor. And man, I'm getting a lot of weird numbers. Okay. Oh man, have you guys seen Gabe? I don't know if you've seen this. I am. I'm not the biggest culture guy, but I realize culture is important, right? We have to impact culture. I love that a lot of conservatives are doing it. I love the steak and potatoes of politics. But I did watch this that P Diddy 50 Cent's documentary on P Diddy, and man, I'm telling you what, if if I'll say this, P Diddy needs to be investigated for far worse crimes, because if any of that stuff is true that's being implied in that documentary, and there is a lot of circumstantial evidence there, if it's true, that guy should not get out of prison for quite some time. So if you guys get an opportunity to see that, I haven't even finished all. I think there's six. I think there's six in the series. I think I watched three, but they were so fascinating. I was like, wow, this guy has been getting away with a lot of dirt for a long time. And I did not know. I've heard people say there's been rumors about him forever. And I have read some things about him in the past. But man, if that stuff is true, it is absolutely insane. Um, Gabe, I just found the my pillow too, which is great news. In case. Okay. Anyway, ready to start back up here. Let me take a swig. All right. Yep. All right. Welcome back to the program. Let me just give you a few more details. Um, let me just give you a few more details of this operation that took place in Caracas, because again, I just thought it was brilliant. And this again from NBC News, that frankly did a great job of reporting on this. When it's written stuff, they do a much better job. Maybe because they're concerned about lawsuits. I don't know, but as opposed to watching their stuff, but there's always some type of bent. But you can see that. But oftentimes they do a better job. Even CNN back in the day, I would always research what the left was saying as well, and it would always amaze me at some of the stuff that CNN would write, because their commentary or their talent, if you will, online were absolutely horrendous with the Don Lemons of the world and all that kind of stuff. But when it came to their articles, they were slanted, but they offered a lot of good information. Operation Absolute Resolve. Here's a few more details. By 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Maduro was in New York. We all saw that. He arrived at Stewart Airport in New Windsor, north of New York City. Yeah, dozens of law enforcement officers officers flanked Maduro as he shuffled to the hangar. He and his wife were to be transported to a jail, and actually they were in New York City later in the day. And Maduro made his first court appearance. But anyway, basically, this is keeping with the Monroe Doctrine. This is the Dunroe Doctrine. You had Nicolas Maduro appear in court today, and both he and his wife pled not guilty to all of the crimes. And honestly, I think this guy is going to go down. There's plenty of people that are making legal arguments for this. This is illegal. What's going on? I want to read for you, if you would bear with me for a second. This is a piece from, I love Greg Jarrett and Jonathan Turley too, at Fox News. But if you'll just bear with me, I just want to read you some of the summary from Greg Jarrett of Fox News. Here's what he has to say about Nicolas Maduro. And obviously, he's a constitutional attorney, but he entitled his piece, "No, Trump's order to snatch Maduro was not illegal or unconstitutional. Article 2 powers and take care clause provided president with the authority for Venezuelan operation, analysis shows." So he says, to the surprise of no one, Democrats reflexively denounced Trump's daring middle of the night grab of Nicolas Maduro and his wife. If Joe Biden, who offered a $25 million reward for Maduro's arrest, had done what Trump did, these same politicians would be organizing a ticker tape parade. Timeout. We all know that that's true. Joe Biden offered a $25 million bounty for Nicolas Maduro. You know what the difference is? He had no intention, and Democrats had no intention of carrying it through. Just none. They just talk a good game to sound tough, to get votes. This is what we're going to do. And then Democrats say, yeah, look at our president. But they do absolutely nothing. And then honestly, Trump had the benefit of literally being cheated out of election, in my opinion, or rigged out of an election in 2020. I'm trying to find this. This old Joe Biden. This old Joe Biden take. If we go, when you can, let's go to cut number 23, and play it just whenever you're ready here, Gabe, and I'll continue with this column until then. But
for the first time, we are fighting and losing a war on our own soil. Let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it.
Okay, so that's that. Listen, and you can disagree with Joe Biden then, you can disagree with Trump now. I would just say that I disagree with you. Obviously, this saves American lives. Look at Chris Murphy. Oh, I mean, Venezuela. I mean, just cocaine, as if cocaine is never laced with fentanyl. Just cocaine, as if Venezuela isn't working in tandem with China, Russia, Iran, which we know they are. I mean, these people are just—they're not serious. They're not serious. I mean, helping an American citizen. It isn't about hating Trump. That's all they have. They have hate and they have anger. They don't have solutions. That's why they do so horribly every time they get in. They get in office and govern. Continuing with this article from Greg Jarrett, a Fox News analyst and also a constitutional attorney, he says almost in unison, Democrats declared Trump's action as illegal, unjustified, and unconstitutional. Many insisted that he was required to seek permission from Congress, but none of that is true or happens to be true. He writes, the president is empowered by the U.S. Constitution as commander-in-chief of the armed forces to direct military action to protect Americans, fortify U.S. interests, and defend our national security. He says the scourge of drugs emanating from Venezuela have long been poisoning our citizens. Our government estimates that roughly 200 to 250 metric tons of cocaine is shipped out of Latin America, out of the Latin American country every year. America, by virtue of its prosperity, is a favored destination. He writes, on this basis alone, the incursion into Caracas was legal, justified, and legitimate. For years, Maduro has led the notorious cartel de los Sols, a violent drug cartel that is designated by the U.S. as a foreign terrorist organization responsible for murders, torture, and crimes against humanity, so egregious that even the UN recognized it. Also, Article 2, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution vests inherent powers in the president to unilaterally order armed forces into military actions. His command authority is supreme, and he may conduct campaigns and deploy operations by his own judgment. Short of a formal declaration of war, a president does not need prior authorization from Congress to act. That principle is embedded in our Constitution and has been upheld by the Supreme Court since the early founding of our republic. In more modern times, the president's authority over armed action has only expanded. He says cases involving Truman, Clinton, and Obama solidified presidential power to direct military operations without congressional consent. Trump had every legal and constitutional right to defend the U.S. against the transport of deadly illicit drugs and to arrest the man most responsible, who has been federally indicted for numerous crimes. He says, and no, Trump did not violate the War Powers Act, and some of his critics have alleged. The resolution that was passed in 1973 stipulates a reporting requirement to Congress within 48 hours of deploying forces into hostilities. It is not a prohibition to act. All right, so you can act and you can inform Congress 48 hours later. I think Congress was informed hours later. All right, after after they invaded Caracas, if you will, or captured him in Caracas. Indeed, it implicitly recognizes a president's inherent power to use military force without specific congressional approval. He writes, every single American president has done so since the end of World War II. The take care clause, he writes, the president has another authority at his disposal. That is the take care clause in Article 2, Section 3 of the Constitution that mandates that the president, quote, shall take care that the laws be faithfully executed. He says, to put it simply, Trump is duty bound to ensure that all federal statutes are enforced. This includes the apprehension, the arrest, and prosecution of wanted fugitives, which he was. I mean, it was Joe Biden that put a $25 million bounty on his head for all you libs out there who are criminally charged with the U.S. crimes and must be brought to justice. I could go on, but Greg Jarrett makes the case. What happened is not illegal. Trump was working under his authority to bring in this dictator. And again, for all of the naysayers, what about our tax dollars? What about our tax dollars? My argument when it comes to Venezuela capturing Nicolas Maduro, fewer Americans will be killed or die of drug overdoses. So hooray, we'll have more taxpayers. We'll have more taxpayers there. I mean, I just think this is a wash. I also think that you'll have Venezuelans who will return to their native homeland once things get resolved. I think that's a win-win for everybody. We'll have a nation in Venezuela that is friendly towards the United States again, that will work with us. And Trump says we're taking the Wall. You heard I forget that guy's name, but he's a clown. The senator, the Democrat senator. This is just about oil. Yeah. Oil is the lifeblood of any civilization. It is. And Trump was right in saying that Nicolas Maduro, actually Venezuela under Hugo Chavez, stole oil from us, and then the company should be compensated. The United States should be compensated, and we're not going to have oil flowing from the black market to enrich and to embolden our enemies that want to take the United States down, as well as Western civilization. So for Democrats and even some on the right to argue against this is just nonsensical. This isn't Iraq. This isn't Libya. Again, it's like none of the places. This isn't Afghanistan. This is in our own backyard. This is affecting people right here in the United States of America. And I am just so glad that President Trump has taken this on. Now, yes, there's even more domestic policy, but I don't look at this as a foreign policy issue, or I do, but also as a domestic policy issue because it was impacting, or drugs are impacting so many Americans. I just think that it needs to be taken care of. All right, so much, actually not so much more, but when we get back, I want to make sure that we get to Mamdani. I hate talking about Mamdani, but we got to do it. And also, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz is out. At least he's not out, but he's not running for re-election for governor in Minnesota. And before things are over, I think he's going to have to resign. All right, this is the Carl Jackson Show. We'll be back. For all of you listening, just real quick, I got to share this with you. You guys know that Mike Lindell is running for governor of Minnesota on the Republican side. There's someone else in that primary, so we'll have to see how that plays out. But this past year has been one of the hardest in My Pillow's history, and it's because of loyal listeners like you that they're still standing strong. So to show their appreciation, they're offering special Christmas savings exclusively for our listeners. Yes, these savings are still going on. So right now, you can get the Children's Bible Story Pillow 5-pack for just $29.98. You can get My Slippers with a free bottle of leather protectant spray for $39.98. A variety of blankets, comforters, duvets, starting as low as $25. Plus, there's a major blowout deal on the standard My Pillow that's now only $14.98. I love that pillow. Honestly, once you use the My Pillow, you're not going to want another pillow. And then if it's a little tough for you at first, pluff it up. Just try to mold it. Throw it in a dryer. You'll love it. I guarantee you. All right. Visit mypillow.com or call 800-858-0263. Use the promo code Carl, C-A-R-L. I don't spell it like the Marxists. All right. To unlock these wholesale prices. That includes the standard My Pillow, originally $49.98, now just $14.98. With queen sizes marked down at $18.99. King sizes are only $1 more. You already know My Pillow products come with a 10-year warranty, but they've just announced an incredible update. Their 60-day money-back guarantee is being extended, so orders placed between now and actually March 1st will be guaranteed. The extended warranty goes all the way through March 1st of 2026, of this year. All right, so if you bought them before Christmas, right at Christmas, the warranty goes all the way through March 1st of this year. All right, guys, let's get into Mamdani. Let's get into what's happening in Minnesota. More telltale signs. I have to be careful. Listen, people got to show up to vote. I hope that people show up to vote. But Mamdani has anyway. Well, let's just get the show started. We'll play some more video for you. Mamdani is going to be a disaster. I wasn't sure. I was actually getting a little nervous that he might do better than we all thought and call it communism or Marxism or democratic socialism and have a lot of people buy in first. But no, he's really uninformed. He really doesn't know what he's talking about. So anyway, let's get right back to it. All right, welcome back to the Carl Jackson Show. Again, your daily dose of objective truth in a world of confusion and lies. All right, so we got to talk about Mamdani. We got to talk about Minnesota Governor Tim Walz, because Minnesota Governor Tim Walz will be no more. Actually, I think why don't we start there? I was reading an article from the New York Post. I don't know if I posted it on my laptop, forgive me, or on my phone. So let I check real quick here. But New York, but the governor is going to be gone. He is no longer running for a third term or for governor of Minnesota. And keep in mind, this was a guy just a year ago that Kamala Harris, which really tells you how great she is, handpicked Governor Tim Walz to be her right hand man, to be her vice presidential running mate. And immediately the guy came out and he just looked like and sounded like a clown. And then we found out this was the governor that presided over the BLM riots in Minnesota, where essentially he actually told the Minnesota Police Department or Minneapolis Police Department when it was being broken into and vandalized and set on fire. Basically let it burn. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. This guy is a complete and utter weakling. If I recall correctly, Minnesota had a $16 billion, I believe it was, surplus. I may have these numbers a little off. When he came into office, now they have like a $6 billion deficit. We know of the Feed Our Future scandal. We know of the daycare scandal with the Somalis. And I got to be honest with you, I don't like the Somali welfare scheme fraud that's going on in the communities in Minneapolis and Minnesota. But if these people are coming to the United States knowing that they can go to a place like Minnesota and just live off the government because it's going to be allowed. I mean, Tim Walz, AG Keith Ellison, the local city council, so on, etc. These people are enabling this. I frankly, the argument is many of these leaders in Minnesota turned a blind eye simply because these people were, were black. I don't think that's it. Maybe that's part of it, but I don't think that's all of it. I think a major part is these people realize, hey, listen, we can scheme money from the federal government. This is going to hook up the Somali community. Whatever they're doing, I see no evil. I hear no evil. What we're going to do is fight for the Somalis, and the money from the federal government is going to be put into our coffers, our campaign coffers. I really think that's what was going on. Now, will the DOJ be able to prove that? I hope so, because I think somebody needs to go down for this. You can't have $9 billion plus in fraud. $9 billion. The New York Post made a great argument, and I'm paraphrasing. I mean, $9 million. Can you imagine how much money can go to the local state coffers in the state of Minnesota? Not to mention nationwide. If Minnesota can disperse some of that, I mean, keep in mind their guy in Minnesota, I forget his name. His name escapes me right now. But the guy that's leading the DNC, he hails from Minnesota. I mean, you just have to wonder. But again, New York Post had a great column. Tim Walz jumped ship, leaves fraud scarred. Minnesota Dems in big trouble. So again, he's going away. He's not gonna run for governor, and I suspect it's because he's going to be under investigation. He might be under indictment. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. I mean, obviously. The seat is getting too hot. He's become a liability to the Democrat Party, and frankly, I thought he was a if you can imagine, the guy was a liability to Kamala Harris's campaign. He's certainly a liability to Democrats in Minnesota. You guys remember his crazy nut wife at one point, and forgive me, I'm trying to cut back on using names, calling people names, but his wife said some really crazy stuff. You guys remember during the George Floyd riots, the Democrat riots, the BLM riots, 2020, when her city was burning. She talked about how she opened up the window and loved the smell of the burning tires. That's sick. That's sick. It's just weird. And this was the guy that was calling people weird. So Democrats are a little scared. They say now you have Nick Shirley has just blown this thing all to pieces. People have known about this, that whistleblowers, according to the New York Post, has tried to raise alarms that were ignored. Even allegedly, whistleblowers were harassed. All right. It wasn't convenient for Walz and friends to notice what a key constituency was up to. And again, they go into how Kamala Harris, this was the running mate just 14 years ago. He was meant to be the answer to the Democrats' national party's branding problem. So remember, Tim Walz was supposed to be countering its reputation for cultural weirdness and its difficulty courting white, male, and rural voters. Remember, he came out with a gun. Why do they always do that? Like, who else was that? The Grey Poupon guy, the Heinz guy, John Kerry. Came out, faking like he did some hunting too. Walz did the same thing, trying to appeal to white guys. All you have to do to appeal to white guys and say, listen, we're going to make sure that everybody in the United States has the exact same opportunity, right? This is going to be about merit, no DEI, none of that nonsense. We're going to fight hard to cut taxes to make life more affordable for you, so on, etc. That's how you go after any voter, whether they're a black male, white male, so on, etc., Hispanic male. But the left likes playing identity politics because they can't govern. They just like calling people. They just like calling. They have Trump derangement syndrome. They just like saying that Trump is wrong about everything. So Walz was supposed to kind of reassure voters that Democrats were normal. He was unable to do that. And now, again, he's having problems in his own state. You have Senator Amy Klobuchar, it sounds like she might end up running for the governorship there in Minnesota. We'll have to wait and see. But it's not a give me. Apparently, Republicans haven't. The last time the state voted for a Republican president in Minnesota was 1972. This, according to the New York Post. The last time a Republican governor, was elected there was in 2026, believe it or not. Pawlenty, I forget it. Tim Pawlenty is his name. So that was 2006. All right. So we're in 2026. So it's been 20 years since they elected a Republican. It's been all Democrats ever since then. But this may be the year where, Republicans can get a nod and win another state like Minnesota in the Midwest. So this could cause some serious damage to the Democrat Party, and frankly, I hope it does. And people need to be cuffed people need to be cuffed for this as well, because this is just absolutely insane. You can't let people get away with $9 billion of fraud. You had happy hands out there. Governor Tim Walz talking about they were taking care of things. Essentially, they had been investigating things for investigating things for years, ever since he's been in office, virtually. And I'm like, you've been investigating, you haven't got anything done. It took Nick Shirley going down and exposing these fraudulent daycare centers, who they were claiming were claiming, oh, kids were coming in from 2 to 6. You've got video that resurfaced of parents literally going inside of some of these daycares where they would drop their kids off and then just, drop their kids, not even drop them off, take their kids in, bring their kids right back out. They would basically get a kickback for making sure their kids came and enrolled. But they kept this nonsense going forever and ever and ever and ever. And now these people are going to pay the price. If we have time, let's go to cut number 18. This is Tim Walz. He believes that allowing billions of dollars of taxpayer funds to be stolen by Somali fraudsters was doing his job as governor. We'll see if that's what he has to say. Cut number 18, please, Gabe.
So I've decided to step out of this race, and I'll let others worry about the election while I focus on the work that's in front of me for the next year. I'm passing on this race with zero sadness and zero regret. I did not run for this job to have the job. I ran for the job to do the job.
So why didn't you do the job, Tim? Why did you let Minneapolis burn? Why did you take the state into billions and billions of dollars of debt? And now it looks like we know where a lot of that debt went. I mean, this is absolutely insane. And now he's not going to run for re-election because he wants to do his job. Finally, he wants to do his job. And now I think he wants to get his ducks in a row because I think he's absolutely, absolutely terrified. I forgot to show this earlier, but Anna Navarro of The View had to admit that this is a very happy day to see Nicolas Maduro go down. Now, she had to offer a caveat that, yeah, when somebody, I think it was Sunny, that asked her, well, do you like the way he did it? And she was like, well, it's two things, right? You don't have to like that, because she has to still appeal to her liberal friends. Otherwise, she won't get that big paycheck from The View. But nonetheless, I mean, it's just some more news out there. So anyway, Governor Tim Walz is out. When we get back, I want to talk about, just spend a segment talking about Mamdani, because Mamdani is going to be a disaster for New York City. And frankly, I hope that they get it bad. I hope that they get the worst Mamdani experience possible. And I hope that they can't leave. These are real live communists that are running New York City now. And I want to talk about that because they hate the individual. If they hate the individual, they hate America. It's as simple as that. I'll explain what I mean when we get back. You're listening to The Carl Jackson Show. Hey guys, just a reminder, please join us all things social media at The Carl Jackson Show. If you want to comment on any of the places that we can see, feel free. If I can answer a question, I will. I love you guys being out there. Okay. All right. I is ready. Use the schools internet sites of resistance. Man. I mean, oh, this is scary. I'm gonna have to do a podcast just based on why individualism and property rights are so crucial, so important. Because anyway, we'll go to the show. I really hate talking about Mamdani because I hate elevating his platform. But we'll talk about his policies and his people as much as possible. All right, let's roll it here, Gabe. All right, welcome back to the program. I got to talk about Gabe's new best friend, Mayor Ma'am Danny, New York. I hate saying that. I'll just be honest with you guys. I was just saying this offline as well. I hate talking about this guy because I hate elevating his name. I think that what they're going to try to do, and I've said this, frankly, I've been saying this for years, but I think eventually what the left is going to try to do, they'll use somebody like Ma'am Danny to say, you know what, foreigners should be able to run, not foreigners, but immigrants, that immigrated here legally should be able to run for president. I think that's what they really want to try to accomplish with Ma'am Danny. We'll see if this happens. But this guy is a true communist. I want to play a clip that went viral last week, and then a couple more clips, some things that we found out about some of the staff within his administration that is just blood curdling, just crazy. And the first thing that he did when he got into office, in case you guys didn't hear, is basically all of the anti-Semitic protections that Mayor Eric Adams put in place via executive order before he left office. Mamdani and his little commie friends, his anti-Semites within his administration, just wiped that away. So if you're Jewish and you voted for Mamdani, um, honestly, I want to say some very mean things, but I won't. I won't, except to say, I hope that you get everything you voted for. I really do. All right, let's go to cut number 5, please. This was the cut that went viral last week. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism. Okay, so let's play that. I'll tell you why that's so dangerous for American society.
We will draw this city closer together. We will replace the frigidity of rugged individualism with the warmth of collectivism. If our campaign demonstrated that the people of New York yearn for solidarity, then let this government foster it. Because no matter what you eat, how you pray, or where you come from, the words that most define us are the two we all share: New Yorkers.
All right, so look at all the seals out there clapping for this guy. But the warmth of collectivism, like the warmth of collectivism they're feeling in Cuba, the warmth of collectivism they were feeling in Venezuela, that literally has Venezuelans, and I forgot to play the video, celebrating on the streets. I mean, even people that may not have voted for Trump, just celebrating, so happy that the dictator that literally killed family members, that forced them to eat, they have, again, the resources in Venezuela are plentiful, and you had people eating their pets. That's how bad it's gotten in Venezuela. When they have huge oil reserves, they have gold reserves. I mean, it's insane what's happening to these people. But the individual is a very important thing. Rugged individualism, and he's using individualism obviously as a pejorative. You understand that that's what makes America great? That every single one of you that are watching this show right now, you're important. Our founders recognized that's how we were able to abolish slavery. That's why we can say that it was such a stain, because it wasn't just they weren't blacks, and African slaves weren't just property. And honestly, you had servants before them, Irishmen and so on. They weren't just property. They weren't just servants. They weren't just things that we could own. They were individuals. They're people. That's what set America apart from the rest of the world. That's why slavery ended here. We understand that every individual is created by God, endowed by certain inalienable rights. That's what we understand in the United States of America. And he's throwing shade on that. There's this reference book that I oftentimes will flip through. It's called Understanding the Times. I love it. I use it as a reference book pretty frequently. The religious worldviews of our day and the search for truth. I might do a podcast just on the worth of the individual, because I think it's needed with a Mamdani coming up, and there'll be plenty of fodder. But let me just read you some parts of this under this subtitle: "The Inherent Worth of the Individual." It would seem at this point that the Christian sociologist is the most pessimistic of all sociologists, since he perceives man as constantly making the wrong decisions. But in reality, God's saving grace makes the Christian position the most optimistic. free will, and responsibility before God grant mankind far more significance than man is granted by views based on atheism or pantheism. Now, again, this is a book that touches on religious worldviews, but it gets to the individual. Man is not a cog in a machine. This, according to Francis Schaeffer. He is not a piece of theater. He really can influence history. That's every single one of you out there, male or female. You can influence history. Mamdani doesn't believe that, except for himself, ironically. From the biblical viewpoint, man is lost but great. The Christian perspective sees every individual as valuable and capable of making an important contribution to society, while other sociologists view the individual as basically helpless in the face of societal pressures. The Christian sees every individual as free and therefore capable of influencing society. To the Christian, the individual is more important than any institution or society. C.S. Lewis drives this point home by observing that atheists think nations, quote, nations, classes, civilizations must be more important than individuals because the individuals live only 70 odd years each and the group may last for centuries. This is what Mamdani believes. But to the Christian, individuals are more important for they live eternally, and races, civilizations, and the like are in comparison the creatures of a day. This is why this is a Christian nation. Judeo-Christian values, Judeo-Christian principles. We value the individual. Collectivists don't. You're just a cog in the wheel. And you've got seals out there clapping to this nonsense. Yes, I'm not important. I'm not unique. I'm not made in God's image. That's what they're clapping for. Use me any way you want to, Mamdani. Use me for your purposes because I'm just a useful idiot. That's what they're saying. I mean, this is just crazy. Let me find this. New York City Mayor's tenant. Oh, let's go to cut number 4. This is New York City Mayor Mamdani's tenant director, Che Weaver or Say Weaver, CEA Weaver. Let's roll that cut number 4, please, Kate.
I think the reality is that for centuries we've really treated property as an individualized good and not a collective good, and we are going to transitioning to treating it as a collective good and towards a model of shared equity will require that we think about it differently, and it will mean that families, especially white families, but some POC families who are homeowners as well, are going to have a different relationship to property than the one that we currently have.
A different relationship to property. So this white liberal trick, it's always some white liberal Karen, right? Working with the Islamists, saying we're going to take away your property. You know, when you busted your butt, blood, sweat, tears, saved your money, worked hard, invested in a property, they're saying no, that belongs to the community. You didn't build that. You didn't buy that. That belongs to the community. That's what this chick in Mamdani's administration is saying. She is a straight out communist. She's going to take away your property. Well, I mean, isn't it nicer to share with people? That's not sharing, that's stealing. And the Bible is clear, thou shalt not steal, which tells us that God is concerned about property rights because thou shalt not steal, meaning he recognizes, the God of the Bible recognizes that we can own stuff. I mean, this is astounding to me. I wondered if this guy would go full blown. He's not joking. He's going full blown. If you were dumb enough to vote for Mamdani and you happen to see this podcast, don't you dare move to Florida. Please do not move to Florida. Or if you do, repent. Make sure that you realize you made a stupid mistake and you vow to never vote for a Democrat or a leftist ever again. And anybody that tells you that things are free, you understand government has no money except the money that they take from you. Oh, we're just going to tax the rich. We're just going to tax the billionaires. You can tax every billionaire, including Elon Musk. You can take everything they own, and that'll literally be enough to fund the federal government for months. for months. And then it's over. So who do they come for next? They come for the working man and woman. They come for the impoverished that have a little bit of chips, right? Because it's the warmth of collectivism. Guys, rich people can move, and rich people will move. And for all of you people that voted for Mamdani, when they move, and they will, when they stop renting out their buildings, and they will, then you're going to get the real Mamdani treatment. You're going to feel the warmth of collectivism, but that warmth is going to feel like poo. That's going to be that's going to be the warmth that you feel, because it's going to be really bad. It's going to be really nasty. I'm going to do some deep dives on the value of the individual. We have to, with the person like Mamdani in office. Guys, until next time, do not grow weary doing good. God bless you. Thank you so much for checking us out live.